Welcome to Kickin' with the Rickens, redefining retirement. Gerry Ricken and Heidi Ricken Provost want to help you retire with purpose and live with joy. Find more information, including how to reach the team, in today's show notes. Now, Kickin' with the Rickens, powered by Ricken Financial.
As always, thanks for streaming Kickin' with the Rickens, redefining retirement. We are here with licensed insurance professional Gerry Ricken. My name is Mark Owens. Gerry, how is this week treating you?
You know, so far so good, Mark. We dodged a bullet yesterday in St. Louis. We had a big storm come through, or actually several waves of storms come through. It was I'm not a meteorologist, but the warm air met the cold air, and everything kind of broke loose around here. But we had some tornado warnings, so had to take shelter a couple times during the day, get away from the windows. And I had lost a huge branch in one of my trees, so I know what I'm doing this weekend. I got to give them the chainsaw out, baby. Right. I got some more firewood, more firewood for next winter. Yeah, we know. So,
we always talk full transparency here on the show. I'm here just north of Atlanta, and we've been in a pretty bad drought for about the past month, and some wildfires down in South Georgia. But we had a couple of bands come through earlier this week, and man, I've never been so happy to hear thunder and see the lightning and see the wind blowing and getting this hard, nasty rain. Like normally it's like, that thunder will wake you up in the middle of the night. Now I'm like, yes, bring it on.
That's right. That's right. Well, we the one thing we can't control is Mother Nature.
Amen.
But we all need the rain.
Yep.
My dad always said, I will never complain about rain.
That's right.
In my home parish in Garden Plain, Kansas, we always prayed for rain every week.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of our devotions, is praying for rain, because that's what the farming community needs it, and we all need it.
That's right. That's right. So we can't control Mother Nature, but the team at Ricken Financial want to help you control your financial future. And I want to have a good conversation this week here about annuities, and we've had discussions about annuities. Me, you, Heidi, a lot of deep conversations. But I think sometimes you need a bit of a reset, because there's always different opinions or articles or commercials about annuities, the pros and the cons, and they're great for retirement. They're horrible for retirement. So, Gerry, I think it's a good opportunity to kind of have like an idiot's guide to annuities. So let's almost start at the beginning, if you will. When you have these conversations about the power of an annuity with one of the family members you serve, where does it begin?
Well, Mark, there is a lot of confusion about annuities, and people believe annuities are bad because, one of the biggest investment firms in the country, Fisher Investments, always says, I hate annuities, and so should you. I mean, he used to take out full page ads like that in the Wall Street Journal and in publications back when we had paper publications.
Right.
Now he just does it online. But interestingly enough, he doesn't like that because annuities take away from his business, and that's why he hates annuities. And it's not because they aren't a good financial product for specifically to retirees, but for the American public. So let's just talk a little bit about an annuity. When you think about an annuity, here are examples of annuities. Social Security benefits are an annuity that pays you. It's something that pays you for life. That's one of the definitions of an annuity. A pension plan. You get a paycheck for life. That's a definition of an annuity in its broad sense. The annuities that were originally designed years and years and years ago were called fixed annuities. And fixed annuities, what you did is you gave money to the insurance company and put premiums in. These are insurance products. These aren't investment securities products. These are insurance products. So you're not putting you're paying premiums into an insurance company with an annuity. When you pay the premium in, they would say, okay, we will. First of all, let me back up. There are fixed annuities, there are variable annuities, and there are fixed indexed annuities. Let's just break those three down, because you told me to make it an idiot's guide, and I want to make this as simplistic as I can.
Please do.
So with the three different kinds of annuities, a fixed annuity says, I will put money into an insurance company. The insurance company, in turn, will provide me with a fixed rate. Think CD equivalent here. What you do with a CD is you put money in the bank, and the bank agrees to pay you over a certain period of time an interest rate that is set, or it could be, changing depending upon the CD. But most CDs are set in stone. I'm going to pay X dollars in, get X percent for X period of time. very similar to a fixed annuity. Fixed annuity says, I'm going to provide the money to the insurance company. The insurance company, in turn, will pay me a fixed percentage for a fixed period of time. Then after that fixed period of time, you rinse and repeat. You do it again, or you move your money someplace else, but it's a finite defined period. A variable annuity, and by the way, those are fixed. Those are based on the claims paying ability of the insurance company, the fixed annuities, because you're actually investing in the insurance company.
Okay.
With a variable annuity, what you're doing is you're investing in the financial market, the securities market, the market that you hear about every day, the S&P 500, the Dow, the NASDAQ, the things that fluctuate on a daily basis, on an hour, on a minute by minute basis. So a variable annuity says, I'm going to put money into the insurance company. The insurance company is going to take that money, invest it in the market, and you can gain money in your variable annuity and you can lose money in your variable annuity. And there are a lot of fees, layers of fees in the variable annuity that you need to be cognizant of. There are fees that the insurance company charges for administering the annuity itself. There are also fees for the investment products themselves. So typically, variable annuities equals higher fees. That's across the board. That's a generalization, but you need to be very cognizant of what you're paying for.
And I hate to stop you there. If we're paying higher fees for a variable annuity, what's the benefit for us?
Well, that's a good question. People get into variable annuities because it has a lot of upside potential. It has more upside potential than any other annuity, because if you believe that the financial markets are going to increase and keep increasing during your term of your annuity, that may be a reason to get into that annuity. But on the flip side, you can lose money in variable annuities because the financial markets can go down and the securities markets do go down. So as the markets go down, your value of your variable annuity goes down, but you're still paying those fees.
Okay.
So you can be double whammied on that because you can lose money at the same time you're paying high fees. Mm-hmm. So that's a disadvantage of a variable annuity. Now, fast forward, those were early on in the development of annuities and what insurance companies started providing. Then there was a clamoring out there saying, you know what, I like the safety of the fixed annuity, but I like the potential of the variable annuity. So the insurance companies came up with something called a fixed indexed annuity. It has fixed components and it has variable components in the same product. And a fixed indexed annuity, the reason it's called indexed is you provide money to the insurance company, premiums go into the annuity, then your performance is based on the performance of an index. Let's talk about the S&P 500 because people are familiar with the S&P 500 index. So you can tie it to the S&P 500 index. And people say, well, what's the difference between that and a variable annuity? Well, a variable annuity, you're actually invested in the market. A fixed indexed annuity, you're tied to the performance of the market. So as the market, but you're not actually invested in the market.
Okay.
So as the market increases, you receive a portion of that increase. It's called a cap, just like you wear every day. So, your flat bill, not unlike your flat bill caps, this is a top amount that you can earn
a market
in these
cap.
annuities. Let's say, for instance, you put money into a fixed indexed annuity and you wanted to tie it to the S&P 500 index. Well, the S&P 500 index starts at whatever it starts at today. It's around 7,000 today. So it starts today, and then you say, okay, what happens from here going forward? Well, if today, your calculation, unlike any other investment, the calculation in a fixed index annuity happens once per year. So 300, you put money in today, whatever the S&P 500 is today, you measure that against what it is a year from today. On the anniversary date, it doesn't follow the calendar. It follows your anniversary date of your policy, of your contract, of your annuity. Those three are all synonyms. So 1 year from today, the S&P 500 goes up 12%. for instance.
Okay.
Then, but your contract, your annuity said in any 1 year, in the first year, if the S&P 500 goes up, you can get up to 9.25% of the S&P 500. So that first year, you will earn 9.25% if the S&P 500 went up 12%. Then after that first year, what happens, Mark, is those earnings, that interest that you earn during that year, gets credited to your account, and then you start the calculation all over again. And on your anniversary date, you have the opportunity to either stay with the S&P 500 based upon its future growth for that next year, or move it into a different index.
Okay.
One of the indexes that's out there, interestingly enough, is a fixed index. So you can actually turn this into a fixed annuity if you believe that, from the second year to the third year, the market's very volatile. It's going to go down. Things are not happening well. You can actually move your money into the fixed side, and maybe you get 3% there. So there's a lot of flexibility, but there's limited flexibility, because your flexibility on your options in how to invest this money occur on an annual basis on the anniversary date. And you have several days before or after, depending upon the insurance company, to make that decision and then lock that in for the following year. But let's talk about what happens if you put money into one of these things and the S&P 500 is down. It is below what it was on day one after 1 year. So day 365 comes along and the S&P 500 is down 10%. What happens to your account? What happens to your account is you don't make any money, but you don't lose any money. And that's the beauty, because your principal is always protected protected from market volatility. So as the market decreases, your account does not.
Okay.
So zero is your hero here. So just think zero is your hero. So you make zero if the market's down 10%. Well, if the market's down 10% and you're in a variable annuity, for instance, you lost 10% of your value. If the market's down 10% in a fixed annuity, it doesn't matter, because that's fixed. Mm-hmm. But in a fixed indexed annuity, and that's what we're talking about right now, is a fixed index annuity. When the market decreases, your account does not. So then each and every year, you have the ability to withdraw money out of these annuities as well. And typically it is a 10% calculation of the account value of the money you have in the annuity. You can take 10% out per year without any penalties. And when I say penalties, what am I talking about? Well, in the most simplistic form, in these fixed indexed annuities, and these are the ones without the bells and whistles, without the income riders, without all the other things. We're just using these as a bond alternative. Simplistically, you can take money out 10% per year, but there are surrender fees similar to early withdrawal penalties on a CD. There are surrender fees that exist in all these annuities, and they decrease over the years based upon the term of your annuity. Let's say you went into and there are 3, 5, 7, 10, 15, all kinds of different terms, and those are years of annuities. Let's just talk about a typical annuity, 10-year annuity. A 10-year annuity means it has surrender fees for the first 10 years of its existence. And you say, my gosh, that's a long time. Well, you won't want to put money that you need access to in a product like this, because this is for safe money that you're not going to be touching for a period of time, or at least you're not going to be touching more than 10% of it for a period of time. So you put your money into the annuity. Let's say it has some growth. It gets locked in. Day one of year two, you can take 10% of the balance out and then let it grow. You can take 10% of the balance out the following year. You can take 10% of the balance out the following year, or you can just leave it in there. So it all depends upon what you're using this annuity for and what your overall objectives are, because this is just one little cog in the entire wheel of your retirement plan. It isn't what drives your retirement plan. It's a piece. Mm-hmm. It's just a piece of a holistic plan. And annuities fit very well when they fit very well. They don't fit well when they don't fit well.
Yeah.
So it all depends upon your plan, what your objectives are, and what your risk tolerance is. And then we see, okay, we expose you to this or to other alternatives, and we make you have an informed decision, because every decision you make should be an educated decision. So we want to provide you with all the tools to be able to make those decisions and see if this is the proper fit. Because without education, you're just guessing.
That's right.
And we want to take the guesswork out of retirement planning. And that's what we do every day at Ricken Financial. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about the differences of all these annuities and what this one does and what you've heard this, you've heard that, please reach out to us, because we would love to have that conversation. And probably the best way to reach us is through our website. That's rickenfinancial.com. You can hit us up out there, or just give us a call.
That number is 314-207-6211. Again, 314-207-6211. As Gerry just said, Ricken, Ricken, rickenfinancial.com. All right, I want to talk about, as we're having a good discussion this weekend, about the power of an annuity. You mentioned something before we got started this week about how a survivor's benefit or how annuity could affect us if a member of the family, a member of the relationship passes away with an annuity. How does all that work?
There is some confusion out there. In fact, this week I fielded a call from one of our dear clients, and they were confused. They said, okay, something just popped up on my news feed. First of all, let's put an alert out there. If something pops up on your news feed, ignore it.
Yeah.
Because just ask the question of your financial professional, because there's so much misinformation out there on social media and on the internet and it's instantaneous and people react to it all the time.
Yep.
Our client said, okay, I don't understand. What happens? Who are my beneficiaries, and what happens in the event that I pass away? When I die, does the insurance company just keep all my money? Well, years ago, there used to be something called a single premium immediate annuity. Those are still available today. And the initial ones said, I'm going to give you, and it was a single premium immediate annuity, because single premium, you give the insurance company money once up front, and then it's an immediate annuity. Then the following month, they start paying you a payment every month. That's just an example. And then when you die, the payments stop. In those situations, the danger was, oh my gosh, what if I don't receive my money back from this annuity? Well, there are all kinds of different single premium immediate annuities out there available today that continue paying. They're guaranteed. The payments are guaranteed for your life or for a period certain. Or there's all kinds of different things that are out there. But those were the initial annuities many years ago, before you and I were born, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
So, and people use this as a scare tactic. They say, oh my gosh, you should talk to me because your money won't go to your beneficiaries. Well, that's not true. In these fixed index annuities that we just talked about, the example that I just talked about, you have beneficiaries, you have primary beneficiaries, then you have secondary beneficiaries in the event that your primary beneficiary is no longer here. But what happens is when you die, your beneficiary receives the money, all the money that's in the account. And that is exclusive of surrender charges. There are no surrender charges upon death. You get the entire amount without any fees, without any charges. The entire amount goes to your beneficiaries. So let me make that clear. There is and they call it a death benefit because this is an insurance-based product, but there is a benefit, and you can the amount of money that you have will never go away. It will go to your beneficiaries without any surrender fees. We talked about surrender fees too, Mark, and those decrease over the years. But one of the other things that the insurance companies have done is typically in these annuities, there's a rider that says, in the event you are diagnosed with a terminal illness, doctor says you have less than a year to live, all surrender fees are then waived, completely waived. So your money is free and clear, and you can use it however you want to use it. Another way that they do that is they call it, if you're confined to a nursing facility, you need long-term care. If you're confined to a facility like that, they will waive all of the surrender fees. They know you need that money to spend on your health, so they don't want to put any restrictions on that. Mm-hmm. So those are benefits out there as well in these annuities. So there are lots and lots of different kinds of fixed indexed annuities. So let's just talk about the two basic premises of fixed indexed annuities.
Okay.
One is for accumulation. And that's the one that I talked about using it as a bond alternative. And an accumulation fixed indexed annuity says, I'm going to invest money with the insurance company. It will either increase or stay level, and it will have zero fees in it. Those are the best kind that we like. That's our favorites, are the ones with zero fees, and you can earn on the upside, but when the downside happens, you never lose any money. You lock that in every year, your earnings, and you rinse and repeat for the following year. Mm-hmm. But at any point in time, you look at your statement and you don't see fees. There are no hidden fees either. So just want to make that very clear. We love those as a bond alternative because it provides the protection that we need, that we want, that we desire for that portion of our portfolio when we are in retirement. The other kind is an income-based annuity. Similar to, I mentioned earlier, it's the simplest kinds of annuities are Social Security benefits and pension plans because they pay you a monthly income for life. You can also design your own quote-unquote personal pension plan by using an income-based annuity. An income-based annuity says, I'm going to take a fixed indexed annuity and open my account, provide money to the insurance company. Then, based upon when I want to receive monthly income, I will tell the insurance company, okay, now it's time to put together or put in place and actually execute on the income rider that I have inside this annuity. The income rider says, a typical income rider says, based upon the years you have in it, an income account value will increase and your income amount that you can take off of it will increase. So the calculation says, based upon the money I put in, I'm going to have a separate calculation over here that says how much income I'm going to generate off of this. Then you decide to take the income. You can either take it as a single person, mm-hmm. and if you're married, you can also take it as a joint calculation so that not only it pays you for your lifetime, but it'll also pay your surviving spouse for their lifetime. And these have lots of bells and whistles. They can be complicated, but we try to make them very simple. In their most simplistic way, we say, okay, when do you need income? How much do you need? Mm-hmm. And we reverse engineer it and say, how much money do we need to fund this specific annuity to get that achievement on income in retirement? The other thing that we always want to make sure that we do is protect the spouse. Yeah. Because protecting the spouse, whether we do that through a joint benefit that you're taking out, whether we do that with life insurance proceeds, however we do that, we always want to make sure that both of you are protected in this relationship. And we want to make sure that you all understand what the costs are, what the benefits are, what the detriments are, because these aren't one size fits all. It all depends upon your specific objectives, your specific goals, your specific needs, and what you are trying to accomplish in your retirement years. So when these fit, like I said earlier, when these fit, they fit very well. When they don't, you don't force them. But we want to make sure that you have education so that you know that annuities aren't bad and you should hate them too. I mean, that's just a ridiculous thing to say, but that's what, a lot of the people who don't like annuities are the people who can't sell the annuities that we're talking about too.
Good conversation this week here about the power of an annuity and how it could benefit your overall retirement strategy. Again, you're going to see a lot of commercials, a lot of headlines. Some people love them. Some people don't like them. Some people see them as a great opportunity for income and retirement, but there are layers. Again, to get more, RickenFinancial.com, RICKEN, RickenFinancial.com, or feel free to give the team a call. That initial consultation, no cost, no obligation, 314-207-6211. And as we kind of slowly put a bow on this conversation about the power of an annuity, I guess an idiot's guide to annuities for those just getting more information, is there a specific age that an annuity would work right? Are you talking to those adults that are in that, red zone of retirement, 5 years out, a couple of years in? Or are you talking to the adult who's just now getting serious about retirement strategies, or does age even matter?
Well, age does matter, and age does matter. And the sweet spot's 59 and a half for an annuity. And we really do not recommend putting non-qualified money, those non-retirement accounts, into annuities, because when you think about it, from a tax perspective, we have put money into 401ks and IRAs. We've never paid money on this or tax on this money, and it grows tax deferred, and eventually we'll have to pay tax on it. If you put non-qualified money, let's say grocery money, into an annuity, you're just doing the same thing you did with an IRA. You're deferring the tax. We don't ever like to defer the tax because the tax man's going to hit us harder in the future, we believe, than he is now. And when I say that, if you did put non-qualified money in an annuity, or if you have non-qualified money in an annuity, when you take that money out of the annuity, if you take it out before 59 and a half, you're going to have a 10% penalty, similar to the way you do with an IRA. So there are tax consequences. So we need to make sure that you understand the tax consequences of what annuity can and cannot do.
Yeah.
And also getting into annuities earlier than that, there are probably other options that you have that will service you better or serve you better than putting an annuity in, let's say at age 40, 45. That's probably because the person who you're speaking with, it's in their best interest and not in your best interest.
Great information, as always, Gerry, about the power of an annuity, because at the end of the day, it's all about income. I love that you said at the very beginning of this, Social Security, that's an annuity. Pension, that's an annuity. There are different. So a lot of people say, like, my grandfather had a pension, and I was like, man, I'd like to get one of those. Well, son, you can get one of those in the form of an annuity. We got to find the one that fits you. Again, to reach out to Gerry, Heidi, the entire team at Ricken Financial, 314-207-6211. Again, 314-207-6211. As always, that initial consultation. Sit down, have a long-form conversation. No cost, no obligation to you. RickenFinancial.com, RICKEN, RickenFinancial.com. Well, Gerry, that's a great place to pause here this week. And as always, thank you so much for streaming Kicking with the Rickens, Redefining Retirement. We are back next week, but before we get out of here, Gerry Ricken, take us home.
Every day's a holiday and life is short. Laugh hard.
This has been Kicking with the Rickens, Redefining Retirement.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Ricken Financial LLC. Ricken Financial LLC is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Ricken Financial LLC are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Ricken Financial LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Ricken Financial LLC.
Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.
Tax preparation and tax advisory services are offered through Ricken Financial. These services are not offered by IPW and are not subject to investment advisor requirements. These services referenced are an outside business activity not offered through or supervised by IPW.